Welcome to another truck hardware installation tutorial. Today we are installing our custom no-body drill Gatorback mud flaps on a 2021 Ford Bronco Sport. These mud flaps are a great way to protect and improve the overall look of your vehicle. Remember, this video is to be used as a companion to the included installation instructions. With that out of the way, let's get started on the front of the vehicle. To start, remove the factory push pin located on the front of the wheel well. One thing to note before we continue on with the video is that the holes circled here should not be on your fender. They are only present on this vehicle due to a previous install using a different pair of splash guards. Now we will begin installing the bracket included with your mud flap. This bracket will be used to secure the inside of your mud flap to the vehicle. To start, find the two clips supplied with your kit. One clip is long and the other is short. Take the short clip and place it into the oblong hole facing the front of your vehicle as shown. For clarification on how to install this clip, please refer to diagram number 1 in your instructions. With the clip in position, secure it in place by installing a flat half washer, lock washer, and screw into the punch nut hole at the front of the clip. The hardware should look something like this when fully installed to the front of the clip. When installing this hardware, ensure that the curved edge of the washer faces towards the front of the vehicle. Repeat this process for the other oblong hole, placing the longer clip into the plate using the same method as before. The only difference this time around is we will install this clip so that the punch nut hole on the clip faces towards the rear of the vehicle. Once in place, secure the clip using a flat washer, lock washer, and screw. The following image shows both clips fully installed. With the clips now in position, we will attach our bracket. Position your bracket over the two bolts on your clips as shown. With the bracket in place, secure it to the bolts using two sets of flat washers, lock washers, and hex nuts. Next, move back to the front of the vehicle and install a spring nut into the factory hole on the fender as shown. When installing this hardware, make sure the extruding part of the nut faces the interior of the fender. Once in place, loosely install the mud flap into the spring nut using an offset washer and cap screw. There are two holes in the offset washer, so depending on the fit of your mud flap to the vehicle, you can use whichever option provides the most pressure to hold the rubber tight against the wheel well. Next, we will secure the innermost hole of the flap to the bracket using a flat washer and screw. Now that the mud flap is loosely in position, we will line up the mud flap with the fender lip as shown. Then, using a marker, mark where on the fender the mud flap holes line up. With the holes marked, take 3 spring nuts and place them over the marked areas of the fender, making sure that the extruding portion of the nuts face towards the mud flap. We use spring nuts in this part of the installation so that we do not have to drill into the body of the vehicle. Now loosely secure the remaining holes on the mud flap to these spring nuts. Secure the top hole using a cap screw and large flat washer. Secure the next hole using a cap screw and small flat washer. And finally, secure the last hole by installing a cap screw into an offset washer. Use the same method outlined before to install the offset washer, choosing whichever hole applies the most pressure over the body of the mud flap, firmly holding it in place. With a square or other leveling tool, make sure the mud flap is level. We also recommend you take a step back and visually gauge the mud flap to check that it is aligned correctly. Once your flap is level, secure all fasteners. Congratulations! You've just finished installing your Gatorback front mud flaps. Next, we'll move on to the rear of the vehicle. To start, remove the 4 push pins located on the fender. Set aside the top push pin for later reinstallation. And then pull back the fender liner. We will now install 3 spring nuts, with the extruding end facing in, into the 3 lower factory holes that we removed the push pins from. When popping the spring nuts into place, you should hear a distinctive clicking sound when they go into the hole. Next, use 2 sets of flat washers and cap screws to loosely secure the 2 center holes of the flap to the vehicle. Next, temporarily level the flap so that we can secure the top hole of the mud flap. With the mud flap now loosely in place, line up the top hole of the mud flap with the fabric liner, and mark the spot using a marker. Then, using a 1/4 inch drill bit, drill a small hole through the marked area of the liner. Now gently pull back the liner and install a spring nut onto the fender so that it lines up with the hole in the fabric liner. To make this process easier, we suggest you use a marker to mark on the fender where the spring nut should sit. With the nut in position, put the liner back in place and loosely secure the top hole of the mud flap into the newly installed spring nut, using a small cap screw and flat washer. Reinstall the previously removed factory push pin to resecure the liner. Then loosely secure the bottom hole of the flap using the outer hole of an offset washer and cap screw. We utilize the outer hole of the offset washer in this part of the installation so that it applies proper pressure onto the body of the flap. With a square or other leveling tool, make sure the mud flap is level. We also recommend you take a step back and visually gauge the mud flap to check that it is aligned correctly. Once your flap is level, secure all fasteners. Congratulations! You've just finished installing your Gatorback mud flaps. If you found this video helpful, give us a like and subscribe. Check out the rest of our channel and website for additional tips, tricks, and installation guides. Thanks for choosing Truck Hardware.